Welcome to the Breakthrough Moments podcast, a podcast where challenges meet opportunities. I'm Harold, and together with my co-host Lasse, we explore stories of innovators, leaders, professionals, and entrepreneurs and how they turn obstacles into game-changing breakthroughs. Get ready for insights that inspire and lessons that last. Subscribe now and let's dive into the moments that define success. Today on the Breakthrough Moments podcast, we're joined by Angelika, an experienced advisor and trainer with Business Data Challengers Academy. With a background that spans over 35 years in management and a deep passion for data and AI literacy, Angelika has dedicated herself to helping organizations harness the power of data. Her journey took a transformative turn after a life-altering accident, which led her to rethink her career path and focus on what truly makes her happy, which is teaching and consulting advisory. Now she's at the forefront of developing innovative data strategies and training programs, all while navigating the ever-evolving challenges of the data and AI literacy landscape. We're excited to deep dive into her story and learn from her experiences. Welcome to the podcast, Angelika.
Thank you so much, Harold. Looking forward to our conversation.
It's definitely going to be a good one. And we had a conversation before we jumped on this podcast today. But for the people that don't know you, if you could give us a brief introduction to who is Angelika and what do you do?
So, I'm Angelika Klidas from the Netherlands, working at, as you said, the Business Data Challengers in actually various roles. I'm married to my amazing wife, Diana, and we have three amazing children. And I am grandma of my little boy, Dean. My role at the Business Data Challenge is being an advisor, more like a pioneer for data-driven operations or a lead for data-driven initiatives. And currently I work for a municipality here in the Netherlands. And my role is actually to transform the data strategy into a program and execute the program to become data-driven at an organization. And we divided the data strategy in 4 blocks. And really, I feel blessed that the first block is the human side of it all, the organizational part of data literacy. And the main thing is here that it's the people aspect that we are touching. And we help people to understand data-informed decision-making, and feel more confident in data-driven working. Next to that, I'm also a trainer and responsible for the Business Data Challengers Academy, in short, BDC Academy. And we develop and provide trainings all around the globe, to be honest. My specific topic is data and AI literacy, and others are covering the topics like data management, AI awareness more from a technical point of view. And we do that globally. So that's truly, truly amazing.
Yeah, I think that the term was new for me when we first had a conversation in terms of AI literacy. Could you describe what does that mean and what does that entail?
Well, to be honest, I do not believe solely in the title AI literacy, because everything what we do in AI is fueled by data. So as I see it, it's a subset of data literacy. But as I say, that it is a hype at the moment. And I see the curve already going down a little bit due to all kinds of circumstances. But I believe AI literacy is more the understanding of ethics, reading the more complex graphs, and more from a technical point of view, the Python algorithms and all those kind of things, but also the AI Act, which is now valid here in Europe. All those things belong to the AI literacy part, I think. And people can disagree or agree with me, but I truly believe that it's fueled by data and it's a subset of data literacy, because you cannot become AI literate when you don't have your data literacy in place. So it's more twist, I believe, from the word data literacy.
Yeah, so it's more holistic. It encapsulates more, and it's more the kind of like the depth underneath it all. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, because I remember when we first got in touch, like data and AI literacy. Okay, what does that entail? But I think at least I now, and also the listeners probably have a better understanding.
Yeah.
When we had the previous conversation, one of the things that you mentioned is that you've gone from a very, very long career in management, and you had a personal accident that made you like refocus and like review it and everything, like and look at what makes you happy, which ended up being teaching and training and data and AI literacy, like we now discussed. Can you share more
Yeah.
about that experience and how that reshaped kind of like you reviewing and reevaluating your passion, what drives you, and which and
Yeah.
ultimately ended up you
Yeah.
taking a different turn?
Yeah. Well, 35 years, 40 years leading roles or management roles. I'm 62. Uh, um, so almost at the end of my career. And I hope I can work still for a long, long, long time because I love what I do. Um, um, but after my accident in March 2022, I fought so hard after the surgeries, after the to be able to walk again and feel normal because I felt disabled and uh, not powerful or strong anymore. And during that time, I also started to write the book Data Literacy in Practice. Um, and Data Literacy in Practice, I've written together with my dear, dear, dear friend Kevin Hannigan. Um, and we did that during my evenings. So I had always a focus of writing down my stories, the concepts that I thought of. And during the days I was working for the former company, and and fortunately, and I'm super grateful for that, my manager gave me the ability to work from home and arrange transport whenever needed. And in January of 2023, and it was even after the launch of the book, and it's sold already for more than 1,500 times in the meantime. Um, I didn't feel happy in the things that I was doing anymore. And to be honest, I also became a little bit depressed. Didn't sleep well at night. Was thinking about life and all the things that mattered to me, but also that didn't matter to me. Made lists. This is good. This is no good. Um, Read some books, Mastering Your Mind, and a book called Ikigai, and even had some conversation with professionals about the way I was feeling because, yeah, the life-altering accident, traveling by plane in a wheelchair, all those kind of things was weird and didn't make me happy. Um, and then from there, I started soul searching and finding my Ikigai. That was the most important book that helped me to think of a lot of the things that I do, what makes me happy, what makes me tick. And I found out by reading that book that your passion is where your elements are, and where every element comes together. It's what you love, it's what the world needs, what you can be paid for, and what you're good at. So
Mhm.
those four elements all combined make me think like, okay, my passion, my mission, my profession, uh, my vocation in this case as well, and they overlap. And then I knew what drives me, what makes me tick, what is a red wire through my whole life, from being a teacher at a big governmental organization where I worked, how people should work with systems, being a diving instructor for a long, long time, more than 30 years. And always teaching was always embedded somewhere in my life, being a teacher at the university, the Amsterdam University of Applied Sciences. So from there, yeah, I decided this is it. I think I'm good at it. It's my passion. It's my mission that drives that everybody needs to be data literate and that I want to help the world, but I'm also getting paid for it. Now, that's your ikigai. Um, and that's for the last 14 months where I'm focusing solely on advisory, teaching, and well, I had 14 amazing months at the Business Data Challenges. Um, I'm truly at my happy place here in this
Mhm.
firm.
Yeah, I think it's so important for us to have something that basically is our ikigai. Like I talk with aspiring entrepreneurs all the time, and founders and people and professionals. One in the aspect of this podcast, but also in general in terms of my main business. And I see it so many times, like how people will fade away if they don't do something they're passionate about. And it's so important just to like, what is that one thing that makes you tick? What is that one thing that makes it easy to wake up in the morning and put your feet on the ground and just get the day started? It's super important. And it's to some degree unfortunate that it was an accident that had to take place, but it's also a good thing because we were able to find that. And based on a conversation that we had previously as well, like the last 14 months has been a completely different experience.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly. And when I look at my career, management was always there, right? And but then when I was a manager, to be honest, I was always searching for moments like, okay, when can I teach? Can I develop some materials? This is a nice topic. We should work on that. So that's actually the red wire. And why do I hold on to something I liked as well, being a manager and coaching people? But this is my personal mission and my passion. And that keeps me in the flow that I am in now. Truly, truly, truly happy.
yeah. You mentioned that you had a secure governmental role in the past, and that and then that you made a transition from working in government to the commercial private sector, which you in our last and previous conversation described as quite a shock. Kind of like, what were kind of like the biggest challenges you faced during that transition? And kind of like, how did you adapt to what you then describe to be the challenges and the demands of the commercial world?
Yeah, the secure walls of governmental organization, they give you more time for vacation. They give you more ability to develop yourself. I made my career through the organization or the governmental organization that I work for. UWV is the name. And then I was so curious how that world outside those walls would look like. And then when I started on January 1st, 2014, I felt like a small, tiny fish in the big ocean. And I needed to find out how the commercial world works, where billable hours count, and the speed of sending invoices and so on. So I went on board, and I went on board on a running train already. So people were already working there for a long time. And there comes Angelika, being a manager of operations. Wow. And I was struggling with balancing things out. The first 6 months, I really have asked myself, did I make the right decision? Um, and you work a lot of hours, more hours than normal. I would do at the governmental organization. It disrupted my work and private life a lot. And the work never seemed ready. And what made me think is and what made me wonder if I made the right correction is the hardness of the commercial world. Um, I am more a people manager, so I like to coach and talk with people and help them to evolve, to grow in the things that they do on a hard side, but also on the on the soft side, so the soft skills side. I want to serve more, right? And um, after somewhat 1.5 years, I left that company and went to another company where I had the ability, the question that the manager or the director at that time asked me, Angelika, can you please start a analytics team, a data and analytics team, and just come be successful in 1-2 years. But I want you to set this team up and just grow and let it evolve. And that gave me a better balance in my life as a manager. I was chief operations officer. And from there, we started growing. And, a team where we had no people at all, just me. And I was finding people all around me. I could make choices. It was not the running train anymore. And we started growing, and we grew until 25 people and successful projects, be having a positive P&L within 1 year, which is really amazing. And again, there started at the end, soul searching. what makes me tick after 5.5, almost 6 years. And well, again, I decided to switch to work a little bit closer to my home, but also to go with one of the best guys I know, and the most technical gifted man I ever will know, because he is so good. And I wanted to join him and work on his team and let it grow. But then again, I wondered after that accident, so what is going on with me as a person? How do I feel about it? When your mind and your work are not in balance, it disrupts everything. And my body didn't work with me. I couldn't walk for so long. Always rehab, always training. It's like a sports, but then on a very high level. And well, I don't have any regrets leaving the governmental organization. First of all, I loved my career, 25 years career there. But I also love the work that I did in the past years, 10 years, finding that balance. And now at a company where we have a different vision, the owners have a different vision of how to organize an organization with freedom, with trust, with no micromanagement. Of course, you have to put your billable hours in an Excel file, but that's it. I am the director of my own career, and that is the trust they give me and the others at the Business Data Challenges. So yeah, I'm truly, truly at my happy place.
Yeah, it's also my both experience, but also like my observation that it is quite a drastic change from the governmental type of organizations to the private, the commercials, where it's billable hours, it's P&Ls, it's making the ship float and stay afloat all the time. And and that transition, I definitely see that it's different type of challenges, but yeah. But one of the things that you mentioned in terms of that is that you, over the past decade, once you entered the private sector, and you've been involved in a series of quite interesting projects for analytics, for data, for these kinds of things, like improving emergency dispatch time and processes there. You mentioned some incredible like performance upgrades when we spoke last, and also like more on an environmental impact side when analyzing coastlines for sustainability in terms of like where is the ocean swallowing up the coastline and what can we do to combat that, and kind of like what are the, because these are obviously kind of like very complex things, complex projects, complex problems, which also requires complex solutions. Like, what do you experience to be kind of like the key things that contribute to navigating such complex, I would guess, data-driven projects?
Yeah.
And kind of like, how do you ensure that even given that complexity, that you create solutions that actually.
Yeah, well, I think first of all, complex projects can be narrowed down to what somewhat simpler projects, right? Making choices in complex processes to define what are the main steps within our process. But also the knowledge that is somewhere around people or in people who think of ideas that are so futuristic or so innovative, and they just start working on it and make it from complex to more simple, right? I truly believe that approach works. I have the ability to think in concepts, but also to see and recognize small things that can be very successful, that can be very big. One of those was Call to Balloon, and even Call to Needle, which was a follow-up project. And those were two. It was a project that, and I immediately, when I was discussing it with my customer, I discussed the approach, and I immediately recognized this is something that we should work on that is good for humanity. It has a very, how do you call that? Responsible. It's very responsible for the people to actually improve your process to save lives, but also to improve quality of life, because culture balloon is about issues with the heart where an angioplasty is necessary. And the angioplasty is the stent that is blown up to open up the veins in around the heart of a patient. And the fun thing here is that we had to connect 4 organizations, tie them together, and let them work together. So we had dispatch that we had the discussions with. We had the ambulance staff, or the representatives of them. We had the hospital representatives, and we had the couple around it, which is the safety region of the area where I live. And we had to bring them all together, and first of all, talk the same language, because in our world, speaking the same language is very, very important. So we had communication, talking the same language, work together, getting the spirit of data in the lead was super cool. And when we worked on the solution, one of my colleagues worked on the solution. Now he's the mastermind of creating cool visualizations. Robert, amazing bloke. And I remember when we were presenting that solution for the first time to the Dutch chairman of the Cardiology Society in the Netherlands. This man, Professor Umans, I will never forget his name. He jumped out of his chair. He walked to the screen and he pointed out, here can we improve, here can we improve, here can we improve, and here can we improve. And I thought, wow, only based on the process schema with the times, right? And we, so when I go back to the start of the project, we just simplified the process into 8 steps. Somebody gets complaints around the heart, and then the patient calls dispatch because it's getting worse. And then the staff, and then the ambulance is going there, and then they will stabilize the patient, make an ECG, and then they will pack him in, transport him to the hospital, hand him over at the hospital, and the treatment is performed. 8 simple steps. So we narrowed the big funnel back to 8 basic steps. And from there we watched the times, we worked together in meetings, not even digital, because we could not share things with each other, but we had the ability to make a report based on the data that we had, and discuss them locally at the safety region. And from there, we started working on several improvements in the process. First of all, when we found out that 95% of the calls to dispatch were correct, the ambulance was sent away. Nowadays, the ambulance is immediately sent away to the address of the person, and the questioning is during that ride. And they can give it back via the system or via a call. Seconds of win, right? And while the ambulance was on its way, dispatch could ask the 911 reporter some more additional questions. Help them to retrieve the data and put it in the source system. And when the ECG was performed, they tried always to make it as full as possible, but sometimes you just have to stabilize the patient. When the ECG was made, the staff is trained to see if a angioplasty was necessary. They knew already that it was necessary. So the big change is here that the ambulance staff already informed the cath lab and the doctors there to be waiting for the patient instead of following other processes. So they were informed, so they have the ability to how do you say that in English? My English is rather good, but I forgot that word. They were waiting for the patients. Maybe that's the simple solution. And the other big improvements, therefore, was we cut out the piece when somebody is delivered to the first aid process, because that's a total different process. Because we knew the patient needed already a angioplasty. He was directly brought to the cath lab. So the whole process was cut out. And that process was brought back to only 5, 6 minutes, which is amazing. And another significant solution, what we found in the data, we saw sometimes that the waiting time at the hospital was rather big. And we found out during our conversations and asking the questions about the ones that were not hitting the mark, that the KPI in this case, which was 1 hour and 20 minutes. And we found out that the cath lab was not always ready for the next patient. So the simple agreement is, okay, from now on, we will take care. The cath lab will always be ready for the next patient, no matter what day, no matter what hour, it will always be ready for the next patient. And in this way, they saved about 20 to 21 minutes in the process, life-saving minutes, quality of life improving minutes, which is super, 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 super cool. And with that solution, I was super proud of them, right? And of the staff and all the people that were involved. I sent a form to a match. I don't know exactly how to say that in English. And we entered a contest. That's the correct word. We entered a contest. The smartest organization of the Netherlands, and they got through all the stages. And finally, they were one of three that had to present live on a big floor with hundreds of people in the room, including me and my colleague Robert. And we were there, and they won the professional prize, but also the people's prize. So it was truly amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing.
So the process of handling those very complex things is frame it down into the core fundamental steps and activities and
Exactly.
tasks that needs to be executed.
Yeah,
And it's kind of like the saying
make
like
people
the
talk.
way, yeah,
Yeah.
get people to get the data. It's kind of like the saying, how does it go? Like the way you eat an elephant is one piece at a time or one bite
Yep,
at a time.
that's
Don't
what I
try to swallow
use
it all.
in my data visualization
Yeah,
training. Yes, yeah, one piece
yeah,
at a
that's
time,
interesting.
one piece, small, tiny piece at a time. And if you have the ability to go from the big funnel back to the basic steps that are needed, from there, and still there, you have data quality issues. And we
Mm.
worked on that. We had a special report in our dashboard about data quality so that we could discuss that. And and the safety region really directed that very, very good.
Yeah. So when it comes to, let's say, data quality, how is that handled? Because I see that there might be kind of like huge discrepancy in terms of like the lacking data here. You have incongruent of data of different type of languages or using different terms for the same thing. Like, how do you kind of like approach that in concepts or projects like the one that you introduced now with
Well,
dispatch and metrics?
for the safety region, we had definitions on the first page
Mhm.
that we had consensus for from the whole group and even for the whole country, because the Dutch Authority of Healthcare, um, they helped in there as well. They had this huge KPI: within 1 hour and 20 minutes, a
Mm.
patient should be helped. And we had the ability, first of all, to report about it, but secondly, we could also work on the definitions and so on. That's one. We have the definitions, and secondly, we knew what kind of data we needed to have for uh, to make the process visible. And we knew also that we had to add a report inside, a more detailed report, and highlight the fields, the key fields that needed attention to be corrected. And that is how we worked in this project. But actually, and I know we will be discussing it later again, from my point of view, data management, data governance, it's very, very important. And others are more better than in it than I am. Um, I know the concept, right? And I know how to address it. But from a pragmatic point of view, we just added it in the report.
Mm.
And every project that I do, and I always say, if you want to improve quality, data quality, just add it in your reports. so that they know what the effect will be, and let the manager or the senior discuss those elements, and then let it evolve that it needs to be changed by the business users. You cannot use it, you cannot only transform it into some value via the transformation process. You should not, because the responsibility lies within the business. And
Yeah.
you have to have that discussions. So from a user perspective, they have to take care of the data quality. Of course, we can do things at the back end. Responsibility lies at the beginning of the process.
Yeah. So ensuring that everyone is on the same page in terms of
Exactly.
terminology, literacy, like the terms, the lingo,
Yeah.
and that you don't call the same thing two different things, or even three or
Exactly.
four.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
makes sense.
everything you can do in your dashboard. So when you start with definitions, you make your dashboard, you have your reports like the analytical variables, and from there you can even go to the detailed information. And at the
Yeah.
end, you have also a data quality report. I did I did this in many projects when I was involved in the more detailed, more with my feet in the mud
Hmm.
projects. But I believe that that works. We just have to keep that mind going. Oh, there's a data quality report. Oh, I have to take care of that. Oh,
Hmm.
I have to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I
Mhm.
think when working on larger projects, I think it's very crucial to like break it down, make it simple,
Yeah. Yeah.
and ensure that we're all on the same page in terms of terminology,
Exactly.
and stuff like that. Without it, it would be really hard to take
Yeah.
steps in a project that might be multi-year long.
Yeah.
Um, um,
Yeah.
and one of the things you also mentioned, which was because this was kind of one of the challenges of having that complexity and breaking that down, and also ensuring that everyone is on the same page. But the next one is actually, do you use what's being produced? Like, how do you ensure that it can't be used, let's say the dashboard, we use that utilize that product, you could say that was produced in the work that you do in terms of looking at processes, looking at the data, creating dashboards, and how to use those dashboards in decision making, in how to adopt and looking at how they do things and optimization recurringly. Like,
Yeah.
what's the approach like there? Like, how do you work with companies to not just for you to create the dashboard and then just to leave it to gather dust, but actually use
Yeah. I think when I look at my first project, the prize winning project, Call to Balloon, it was a project that was for and with the safety region, and the safety region was already going on that stairs to become data driven. And actually, data is at the core of everything that they do. So that journey was somewhat simpler than what I'm doing now, for example, at the municipality here in the Netherlands, where we are just at the beginning of the data strategy, and that we are beginning of finding out what skills, what training programs should we provide, and how should we inspire people to work with data and analytics. And yeah, well, I have some amazing story to tell, so that's cool. But then on the other side, when you look at the other big application that we have created with one of our customers, the climate risk overview, but what you mentioned with the coastlines, I know that it's not used that well just yet,
it.
because it's from a broader perspective, right? It's on a public platform. No, it's not built. It's put on a public platform, changeourworld.com dot nee, changeourworld.click.com, and there it's running. Sorry, and that's a whole total different perspective. There we need to talk more about it. I have to take a sip. Hold on.
Of course.
Okay. So that solution is more broad. It's for a broader public, and it's again totally different than a municipality project. But here, with this solution, we created something so nifty that it's so good for the world, all around the world, because you can easily spot the vulnerable coastlines around the world, start local projects, and even governmental projects whenever you want it, just by looking and analyzing that area. Um, And what we did here is, again, we had a big bunch of data. We brought it back to the essence of what is needed. And Gerben de Boer is the guy that has built the back end and the front end with me. We collected data from NASA, from the World Bank, from UN, from Deltares, from Copernicus, and with Python, Gerben is the magician in this case. He brought everything back together, and we used the technology of Uber in this case. Uber works in hexagons, and we developed that technique in ClickSense. So you have the world is divided in hexagons like a football. And when you click on one, it divides again in hexagons. And when you click again, it divides again in hexagons. And we started building the dashboard, improving it a little bit. And you find some amazing things. And Gerben and the team at Van Oort, the sustainability team led by Rachel Cherry, they wanted to give the solution away to the world. And so that, because we suffer from rising seas, erosion of coastlines by building in a bad way, like what happened in Senegal Sally, where the coast was eroded due by building marinas and everything, and 20,000 inhabitants were relying on tourism. And they didn't game anymore because there was nothing anymore. There was no beach anymore. And at Senegal Sally, they found out by analyzing the data, they have developed a 4.5 kilometer long stretch of hard nature-based solutions, put it in the sea, building the protection for the coastlines. And now they are rebuilding the economy again, and tourism is coming again. And on the side effect, as sustainability is on the agenda of Van Oort, and again, Rachel really does a amazing job there, telling the stories about soft and hard nature-based solutions. And I even got a book from them signed, and I'm studying like crazy because I want to know everything. They even had the people with them from Van Oort to build those solutions, but also they worked with the locals. 80% of, I believe 80% were local people that were helping to rebuild their coastline. But they also did a project with schools around that area by collecting plastics so that it could be reused for other things. So that was a cool side effect. And even here in my area where we live, so I live near to the North Sea, just like you, I believe. And we have a section here in my country. It's called Petromer Sea Defense. That is what they built. And that was the last piece of our coastline that needed more protection because there could occur flooding. They rebuilt the whole area of the sea defense, and with the soft area like sand, created new dunes, new nature, new dunes to climb on and have a view over the sea. But also they created small lakes, so they saw not only that the sea was that we were protected against the rising sea, but also that we suddenly had new animals in certain areas and a new section of nature, which is amazing. And that helps. And as we said, Van Oort gave this solution so they can identify those vulnerable coastline and work on those soft and hard solutions with or without Van Oort. They gave it to the world. So again, you can see it for the listeners or viewers. HTTPS //changeourworld.click.com, and you can find it there in the and it's just a ClickSense app as we work with. So I think still amazing solutions from complexity brought back to simplicity. And I think this is how you can be successful in projects.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you mentioned the coastline project when we spoke last, and having been involved in a couple of things in terms of environment in the past as well, and a couple of things on the side, it's how technology can aid in that is incredible. And the processing power, especially now with the new technology, not in the case of people that has been in tech for a while in terms of the new technology of AI, but generative AI, it's the opportunities going forward is immense.
It's
Uh,
going crazy. Yeah.
yeah, and we talked about how you've seen AI or the traditional type of AI evolve from way back because it's been around way longer than most people outside of tech believe. And now working with generative AI technologies, you mentioned Click a couple of times, which has a amazing tool, quick answers in terms of actually using generative AI to understand data and talk with data and things like this. So the question now is kind of like moving forward and looking into the future in terms of how do we use this AI technology and generative AI technologies or how can it transform the way organizations use data? How can we interact with data? What do you see as the potential pitfalls? And how do we integrate AI into our workflows?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's a very broad and very difficult question to answer. But when I look at 2016, just in the commercial world, doing cool stuff, from scanning labels on bottles and interact with people with augmented reality, or let them fill in a form to win a prize, uh, to actually scan a package of soup and let the cook tell you the recipe, and it helps you to cook. I did already some amazing stuff, and it was, collecting data and all those kind of things. But we saw some amazing things because you can actually collect customer data, but you can also see where they are interacting from. So we brought the product a little bit closer to the customer, but also the customer a little bit closer to the product developers and everything. And even now, my colleagues, they are working on some amazing stuff. One project that we do is image processing, and they try to do with technology to fill in the blanks in MRI scans. For example, somebody has a piece of metal in his arm, and they have the technology to fill in. It's not ready yet, but those kind of things you have to think of. It's an amazing project, and I think very valuable for healthcare. Another project that we are doing is post estimation. Post estimation is the minimal viable product is ready now, so we are piloting now with some sport teams. But it actually helps you to make a video of a sporter running, and you put it in our system. It comes back with 10 results: 5 of the left leg, 5 of the right leg, left, right, yeah. And then you can see how that runner is running in certain moments in his track. And the next step is that we put the algorithms on top of it, analyze it, and give advice how to improve your running skills. Now we do that still by looking at it via the experts that are in our team, or the expert, because we have only one. And Timo is going to help the FC Utrecht soccer team, ladies team, to improve their running skills. And we do that for, we use it in hockey, in rugby, in everything that we do. And then that's AI and all the things around it. And then we have Gen AI that uses AI to become so intelligent because it's algorithm. And I do use it a lot, to be honest. For me, it takes about minutes, sometimes 15 minutes to create a presentation based on a piece of text. Easy peasy. And then I just correct it a little bit. So it doesn't take me 3-4 days anymore, but it gives me the handout, the brainstorm to make a cool presentation. We can ask for debugging. I know my colleague Timo is using Gemini a lot for that to see if the code is running, or ask for specific sections of code. ChatGPT for brainstorming. I just last time in the classroom, I uploaded a photo from Florence, and it recognized where my photo was taken, what the building is, and he could even tell me a little bit about the history and the architect of that building. That was a Florence, I should say. Um, and I think it's very cool what is happening, but I see also flukes, issues, downsides. Um,
Yeah.
Analysis, it still doesn't perform very well. It makes mistakes, but I think on the content side, I think it is very powerful. But we should always check the things that we do, um, and that's the critical part again. And to come back to Click, and I'm a beta tester. That is from the program, the partner ambassadors. And Click launched on July 30th. Click Answers. And I truly, after so much testing, of course, there needs to be improvements made, and we all recorded and we all noted them down. As ambassador, I formed a small group with 8 people, and we are just working and testing, writing it down so they can also retest it. Um, and we found more than 45 use cases where we can find the relation between the structured data, the analytics environment, versus the unstructured data. So, for example, the lead time of people that are working for a company. So people come in, you can count the resumes, that's analytical data. You can even see, okay, when did they send their resume, when they were for the first meeting, the second, when we did the hiring, what appointments were made. And then you have also the second section, and that is that people leave companies. So you want to know how much, because you want that customer or that employee retention to be as low as possible. You don't want them to leave because we have a big shortage of finding people, sometimes in jobs. But now, if you get that signal that in 1 month many people left, and if you note down in an exit review or meeting or interview all the things that you want to ask, you have a simple, basic list of interviewing the people that are leaving your company. You can put them now in your Click environment, and you can just say, okay, this one left on this date, also this date, somebody else left. Let's check the exit the exit meeting notes, and let's find out what happened. And if you can find relations there, that is very powerful to change processes again, also in approaching people, because we live in generation Z, I believe. The boys and girls nowadays, they are totally different than during my time. I'm totally from a different generation. I believe that I am innovative, that I go with the flow with the new technologies. 62, I still embrace everything. But the youth, they have some different behaviors that you have to manage in a different way. They need a different approach. They don't want to work full time anymore. They want to work 24 hours, just enough to cover their costs. And when they are 30 or so and have children, then they will start working for 40 hours a week. That's a total difference. It's a total different approach.
Yeah. Yeah, I spoke with a lady that runs a executive search firm in Poland and the US. And one of the things that we discussed is the younger generation in terms of how they approach work in general. Because a lot of the things that she's focusing on is that change. There is a generational shift. It's
Exactly.
a shift between countries, like Eastern Europe, Northern Europe, the west of Europe as well. And like how we approach things and how we adapt to new technology is severely different. I remember when I first talked about AI to my grandparents, they were like, "What is this type of magic?" Uh, and it's I truly believe that generative AI is going to change a lot. I still think that there are a lot of pitfalls. There's a lot of things that we need to look at, but it empowers us. Like I know how to read code, but I have no clue how to write code. But just having the ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude, like I'm getting entry into that domain, which I rather wouldn't have been able to. But you mentioned also that in terms of there are pitfalls and there are downsides to it. And you mentioned
Yeah.
critical
Yeah.
thinking as kind of like one of the core components to that. Because I heard someone say that the biggest challenge that we as a species face when it comes to generative AI is that generative AI is going to allow people to seem educated, seem experienced, and seem um, to have a depth of understanding which they don't actually have. So when it comes to critical thinking, when it comes to reliance on AI and like checking, how do you think organizations and individuals and professionals have to approach
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, that's very, very difficult because sometimes you simply can't see that a text is written by ChatGPT. You can't. Um,
Yeah.
sometimes, let's say, I think there is a 70-30 balance. I recognize when a student delivers, for example, a document that is written by ChatGPT or by Gemini or by Claude. Sometimes I recognize because it's words like error, like embark, those words they would never use, for example. I can see
Yeah.
that because I also have them in my classroom, so I can recognize it. But I do agree with you. But and I had this discussion with my students at the Amsterdam University. We discussed the open discussion about ChatGPT. Are you using it? What do you think? And I made a quiz of it because I like to do interactivity and gaming a little bit in
Hmm.
my classrooms. Um, and they came back with answer no, it makes me lazy. I use it for brainstorming to get me the highlights, but
Right.
I want to write myself because otherwise I get lazy. And others say I use it whatever I can. And we need to find that balance because we get lazy. People tend to be more educated than they are not. Um, even I have boys and girls in my classroom. They are from abroad, so they are not that long here in the Netherlands. They
Yeah.
follow the studies for their bachelor, and uh, their speaking language is not 100% or maybe even 80%. But then by using ChatGPT, they can mislead us. But then on the other side, thank God, some of them said, no, no, no. I keep on writing myself because I want to learn. I need to
Hmm.
learn to speak and write correct Dutch. That's a big, big difference sometimes in people. And how do we point through it? Maybe there needs to be a tool somewhere developed that can recognize elements. But yeah, is that possible? I don't know. Um, I think we need to be critical and argue and yeah, assess what we read, what we see. To be honest, I use ChatGPT as well. But I brainstorm more with it and then fill in the blanks, or I'll just correct things. But then I know how to prompt because that is something I
Yeah.
learned over the last 2 years, I think already.
Yeah.
Um, and data is not black and white, right? The things that we do is not black and white. We just have to find the path that helps us. And it's hyped. It's so hyped at the moment. And the biggest disruption that I see uh, using Gen AI is that fake news can be created and people just buy it. That's
Mm.
my biggest fear, but also my biggest worry.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think
Yeah.
we just have to ask questions. What is the source? How did this? Where does it come from? Did I do a check on Google search, for example, or whatever? So I try to analyze sometimes where does this come from? And I have my newspapers that I read. I read 3 websites, and one I just closed it down already because it's full with strange stories or weird stories. Yeah, I think the most critical thing that we need to develop for in organizations and in the world is critical thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. It's the and I've experienced this in my own organization as well, that it's easy to rely on ChatGPT. Because you punch in a question, you say what you want, and you get the draft for it. And the lack of reflection that goes into it, I think, is just it's like doing yourself a disservice in the long run by using it. It's a phenomenal resource for reflecting, brainstorming, and coming up with ideas. But at the end of the day, you have to still do the work. So it's
Yeah.
interesting that a couple of the students that you quizzed said, no, it makes me lazy. But
Yeah.
someone was on the completely different other side of the spectrum saying, I'm going to use it whenever I get the chance to do so.
Whatever.
Yeah, on
Power.
whatever you're going to do it,
Yeah.
save time and get on to the next
But
thing.
then in the end, when we do the assessments, they will fall into the pitfall, right? And
Yeah.
that's, I think there needs to be a good balance between the documents that I have to write, but also the assessments and the interviewing that we do, or exams that I have to write down
Yeah.
without using any chat GPT, because then you will recognize. I think schools and universities need to find that balance between both. In the work field, we need to be critical in the things that we do. Absolutely.
Yeah.
100%.
What do you think is kind of like the biggest future challenges in general when it comes to data, AI literacy, when it
Uh,
comes to what's up ahead?
the challenges, right? So first of all, data and AI literacy. I think that's still number one. We need to be aware what is going on, how it is going, how we can criticize and argue with the things that we see. So laying that foundations for people, for
Mm.
organizations, even my wife, Diana, she's, oh, you always talk about data literacy. And I thought, babe, you are data literate. You have that basic foundation. Honey, you book journeys, you book tickets, you book even Airbnb uh, uh, apartments or houses because you set parameters, you filter, you look at the reviews, you read them, you discuss them with me. So actually, we are making data informed decisions. So yes, you have a basic level of data literacy. Oh, is that it? I heard, but that's always the example that I use, even
Yeah.
here in my house. So I think the challenges is that we still have to overcome the data literacy and AI literacy elements. We have to work on that. And I see, thank God, after a period of 2 years down, I see that rising again, and my days are full with data and AI literacy and working on trainings and everything. Um, Secondly, I know my colleagues at the Business Data Challenge would love it. I see the challenges of data governance and data management. We
Mm.
need trustworthy data to be used in AI solutions or in reports. And thank God it's getting more momentum at that moment as well. And the third one is either also important, or maybe I should put them all on number one. That is responsible handling of data,
Mm.
because we need to think through what we do. We need to actually, at the beginning, at the ideation phase of a project, we should always check privacy, information security, and ethics in the most broadest way. Even a business rule can be an ethical dilemma. And from
Yeah.
there, we just have to have that momentums in our projects to check and verify every time the three elements, and at the end, even test it maybe. But I think those are the three biggest challenges that I see.
Yeah. That's very good. There is one question that
That's
I
the most
have,
difficult
yeah,
one.
the most difficult one, the most open-ended one, the question for afterthought and reflection for the viewers, the listeners, and the people that come across this podcast. Because everything that you mentioned is one, the story is inspirational. Like going from the safety of the governmental life to going into the private and commercial sector, looking at data, uh, how it's going to
Mm.
change everything because it is, kind of like the biggest challenge that we have moving forward. So the question is, if you could get an answer to one question related to what you do, what would that question be? And what would you want to know?
I would like to understand how the emerging technologies that are popping up like mushrooms all around us will affect our industry over the coming five years, 5 to 10 years, and how should we, people like me and others in my area, How should we help uh, organizations, people to adapt and embrace those new technologies? And I think it's a big worry sometimes because it's going so rapidly. As a teacher, I cannot keep up. I cannot
Mm.
know everything anymore. Just like we don't do everything anymore solely by one person, right? We need multidisciplinary teams. We need that uh, equality, diversity, and inclusion in our teams so that we can work together, so that people can also look from a different perspective. Um, and secondly, my biggest wish for the world is how those emerging technologies can help us to help our world, protect my children, your children, everybody's children for the future, with the rising sea, with plastics issues, and so on. I hope that there are people, some cool guys and girls that can think of solutions, maybe even based on data, just like Gerben did, Gerben the book from Van Oort, to build amazing solutions that we can help our world with.
Yeah, yeah, that's beautiful. And if someone has maybe an answer to one of these questions, I want to learn more, get in touch with you. Where can I find you?
Okay, well, you can find me anyway on LinkedIn, Angelika Klidas. Well, you can drop my name on there.
Yeah.
I have a YouTube channel as well where I post regularly some films, marketing perspective, but also sometimes some tryouts that I record, some analogy, um, or simply send me a message via Angelica uh, at b21s.nl, and I will get back to you.
Yeah, wonderful. I'm going to leave all those down in the comments, so you will find that. But Angelica, it's been a pleasure to have you on. It's been interesting to hear about your story. Hopefully, the viewers and the listeners also find the story inspirational, and that the question at the end, at least, encourages some reflection. So I was happy to be able to bring you on the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me.